So, anybody see this online? Second Coming, the documentary?
No.
No, actually it's a Kickstarter campaign. Somebody I know named Cara Jones in the Bay Area is making a documentary. She is second gen. Her parents were early members of the Unification Church. So I'd like to start off by giving her video introduction.
I am on my way to this theater where I'm going to tell my story big way for the first time, at least a big way for me. This is a story that most of my life I've been afraid to tell. So it was the summer of 1995. I was standing in the Seoul Olympic Stadium in Korea, clenching the hand of a man that I had met just a month before and was about to marry. We stood there in the stadium among 10,000 other brides and grooms. And suddenly I wanted more. My marriage was arranged by a man named Reverend Sun Myung Moon, who is the founder of the Unification Church, a group otherwise known as the Moonies, that I was raised in. The marriage didn't last more than a few years, and the divorce felt like a divorce from my parents and the church. I was very much on the outside, and I wasn't alone.
I always knew I was gay, and I've kind of been at war with myself for a long time.
We're going back to the church to figure out why it still has such a hold on us. This whole journey is taking me much closer to my childhood and my parents than I thought. People often ask me, how did you break out of that cult? To me, the church never felt like a cult. It was just an extension of my family. How do you walk away from family?
Coming soon to a theater near you. How do you walk away from family? Can you walk away from family? Your parents are what? Always your parents, right? Your children are what? Always your children. Your grandparents are what? I'm going to be asking a lot of questions during this and giving some of my answers. That doesn't mean it's your answer, it's just my answer. Truth be told, everybody stands up here and gives their own opinion about everything, which stand sometimes agrees with and most of the time it doesn't, which is good. It's a free country. So you don't walk away from family. So this film is very interesting. It's exploring two central questions. How do we figure out who we are despite the gravitational pull of the beliefs we are born in? And when family is built on faith, can you leave one without losing the other? Does that make sense? How do we figure out who we are despite the gravitational pull of the beliefs we're born in? You know, that's very interesting. This is questions asked of a second generation member who went to the blessing, had her experience with the blessing in the church, and is going forward in her life. But you know, these are also the questions that it's asked of Muslims coming to the blessing, of Jews coming to the blessing, of Christians coming to the blessing, of everybody coming to the blessing. Because the reality is, whether we like it or not, the future of the world is intercultural, interracial marriage. Christian and Jew, Muslim and Jew, everybody in Jew. We're all Jewish. No, I'm joking. I mean, I'm reading through the Old Testament recently, so. So how do we, these questions, you know, as I was reading her questions she's exploring in this documentary, which hasn't come out yet, it's really amazing because the questions are really, really pertinent questions. And when family is built on faith, can you leave one without losing the other? What is going to happen, what did happen to Muslims who went to this blessing or one person was a Muslim and one person was a Jew. There were people in that blessing where the wife was a Muslim and the husband was a Jew, and they got blessed together. What happens? I mean, if the father's side is super strict Hasidic Jew, and the mother and the lady's side is a very strict Muslim who don't believe in interracial marriage, interreligious marriage, when the family is built on faith, can you leave one without losing the other? I mean, what is the answer to that? How do you deal with that? I mean, that's the reality of this blessing is not a Unification Church thing. This is God working through true parents to tell people, hello, wake up. This is pre-9/11. Hello. You guys, as the world, have to deal with the reality of what is coming is many, 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 many marriages between different religions. How do you deal with that issue? Does anybody know the story of right before 9/11, there was actually an interfaith event or program that was planned that week? What was it, Charles? What was it called? You know, was it a blessing or was it just a summit?
Just summit.
Yeah, there was a summit like that same week that 9/11 happened. So there was, you know, people mock Unification Church and the blessing, but the reality is that's where the world is heading. How do you deal with intercultural, interreligious marriages? So this part here, let me read it. We are making this film not because we have definite answers, but the process of asking these questions has, in subtle and big ways, moved our lives forward. We hope the film will have a similar profound impact on our audience. This is on Kara's and her team's Kickstarter campaign, which personally I think, as a local church, we should donate $10,000 to. I think as a national church, we should donate $1 million to it. What's the president, Dr. Baughman? No, Dr.
Balcom.
Balcom. Dr. Balcom, we should donate $1 million to this campaign. Why? Read this book and you understand why. It's called The New Rules of Marketing and PR. The reality is the story is going to be going out for intercultural marriage, and we have to tell the story. If we had $1 million just to Kara's Kickstarter campaign, we could, if we got the cost at $10,000 per family, we could tell the story of 100 blessed families that went to the blessing. Now, of course, there's many people that struggle with the blessing. Like me, everyone struggled with the blessing. But there's many amazing stories of people who went to the blessing, right? There's blessed one brother who won America's Got Talent. There's Olympic people. There's people that are intercultural between Jewish and Christian. There's all sorts of different people. So we need 100 stories, documentaries, maybe 30 minutes each, of what it means to go to the blessing as an intercultural marriage, like a Christian and a Jew. What it means to go there. I mean, I've gone to the blessing, God, maybe 5 times. I mean, I'm still blessed with the same person, my wife, but we got invited back for different, we brought busloads of people to blessings at JFK. We brought, I remember in 1992, around 1995, same time Cara was blessed, I was in Chicago, and the direction came from headquarters, oh, the blessing is now for everybody. You don't have to be a Unification Church member. Ooh, there were some upset people. I remember there were some leaders who were upset. Oh, they didn't do MFT, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, blah, 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 what's Father doing? This is the end of the church. And I thought for a second, and I was like, man, that guy's the Messiah. That is incredible. He's saying, look, the point is blessing. The point is family. It doesn't matter what church you're in. Hello, wake up. That was True Father's direction. He was saying, it doesn't matter if you're a Unification Church member. Bring imams, bring Muslims, bring everybody. This is the future. This is pre-9/11. True Father standing up saying, yeah, I look crazy, but I'm going to bless everybody and move it away from, it's just my individual salvation to, it's the family. I mean, what are you going to do when your daughter wants to marry a Jew? When your son wants to marry a Christian? Right? What do you do then? I mean, how do you answer that? When Peter's son says, Pops, I met this girl, she's beautiful. She knows God's word much better than you. She has many spiritual children. She makes $1 million a year, but she's Jewish. Whoa, my God! God's blessing can't come to you because blah, blah, blah. What do you do? That's what this documentary is asking. We are making this film not because we have definite answers, but the process. Hello? Sounds like Father. God bless you. You work it out. I mean, Anti-Fragile. Has anyone read this book, Anti-Fragile? If you're struggling with understanding Unification Church, you have to read this book. You have to read Anti-Fragile. Okay. Anti-Fragile, let me explain it simply, if I can. If you have a box, and inside the box is a toy, and you shake it up, and it breaks, that's fragile. Anti-fragile is if you have a box, and you shake it up, it becomes stronger. So this guy was like an options trader who figured out that this idea of anti-fragility is how the creation works. That's how God works, actually. How do you test if something is true? It's a test of time, test if something works over time. Like what's the most printed book in the world?
Bible.
Bible. Why is that? Just for that one fact, you should read the Bible one time at least. Hello? If you want to read one book that's going to enable you to converse with most people in the world, read the Bible. Anywhere you can go join a Bible study. Naomi's at San Francisco State. She's at a Bible study because she feels comfortable talking to people. She knows how to talk to people about that. So this is very amazing. This is right off the Kickstarter campaign that Cara and her team put online. It says, the process of asking these questions has, in subtle and big ways, moved our lives forward. So I met Cara when she was in PLA doing STF, like GPA, back in the day. In late 90s, I was in Chicago. I was actually going to film school. She was on her way to film school. I met her. She was at a flower stand. We talked for a while. And so she got blessed. It didn't work. I don't know her full story. I guess we'll find out in the documentary. I've heard there's many people that got blessed in many difficult situations. But the amazing thing is, I mean, I almost cried when I saw her video. She's coming back and she's saying, look, she's going forward in her life. How to live a life that God can work in, that God can bless. She's going forward. She got married. She has a daughter now. She is going forward in this whole process with her parents, everything. So it's like my hat's off to her. And you know, as a second gen, she in many ways is a great example because she's willing to keep going forward, asking those questions, how to grow, how to keep going. And what's this last sentence? We hope the film will make you negative to everything in life? No. We hope the film will have a profound impact on our audience. Okay, so why do I say that Unification Church is so anti-fragile? Of course, because God is working to get it going, but anti-fragility is God's strategy. I mean, what in the Bible are like the two things that never change? The blessing and family. I mean, churches come and go, but the family has lasted for how long? God, I love natural selection. Stupid people die. They don't multiply so much. I mean, bad ideas die out. Good ideas keep going. People say, are you worried about Unification Church? No. All the bad ideas are going to die out. It's natural selection. All the really incredible, brilliant, victorious people that we don't hear a lot about, they're going to keep going and going and going and going. That's God's strategy. Why do you think that the mass marriage ceremony of the Unification Church was invited to open to everybody? Because the purpose is not to build the Unification Church. The purpose is to build blessed families.
Yes.
If you read the Divine Principle, Father said read it 1,000 times, you're going to start thinking, oh, I got to read the Bible. You start reading the Bible, and the blessing just pops out at you. I looked up a word search this morning on the Bible for a International Version. About 400 times in there it's talking about blessed. You're blessed when. You're blessed when you do this. You're blessed when you do that. It's all throughout the Bible about the blessing. What about Jesus? Jesus, the first thing he did is talked about what? Sermon on the Mount. What was it? Blessed. And what was the first thing Jesus did after that? He made holy wine. Read the Bible. First thing he did is he made holy wine at a wedding. First thing he talked about was the blessing. Then he made holy wine. Unification Church members, read the Bible. I'm just praying, I like reading books. I'm just praying I don't drop any F-bombs because I've been listening to Tim Ferriss a lot. on podcast. He's the bomb. If you're going through anything you need something to listen to, Tim Ferriss, especially if you're young, going to college, this is incredible. Read Tim Ferriss, listen to his podcast, good stuff. Okay, so the divine principle, your handout, there's one page, there's only one page. If you're not a Unification Church member and you're listening to this because of Kara's incredible documentary, and we're promoting that today, you need to study one page of the divine principle to dialogue with Unification Church members. That's page 172 of the color coded divine principle book. You need to, even Unification Church members, I know most of you guys, how many people here read the book once this last year? Okay, so just read this one page, that's all you need. This is the last, remember divine principle starts out, everyone's struggling, that includes James. Everyone's struggling, includes me. And then the last page on part 1 of the divine principle has this story. Who's the original storyteller? My handout, are you a good storyteller? God's a good storyteller? Okay, listen to this story. Originally, God's purpose for creating Adam and Eve, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically it says, okay, originally God's purpose for creating Adam and Eve was to form a trinity, by raising them to be the true parents of humankind, united in harmonious oneness, as husband and wife, centered on God in a four-position foundation. If Adam and Eve had not fallen, but had formed this unity with God and become true parents who could multiply good children, their descendants would have also become good husbands and wives. So the main point of this page is the purpose of history, the purpose of the divine principle is teaching people how to multiply good children. Anyone listening to this video wants what for their children? Wants to teach them what? How to be good people, right? How to be successful. Do you want your 25-year-old, not be able to work, have to live at home until they're 50? No. You want them to be successful. And then the last sentence in here is very interesting. It says, when fallen people are restored to the point where they can establish true four-position foundation centered on God, they will finally be able to build the kingdom of heaven on earth where God's three great blessings are fulfilled. So, quick history lesson. Typical Christians, Jewish theology is pointing this way to the second coming. Second coming comes, and the divine principle comes and turns around this way and says, look back to the time of Adam and Eve. Everything is about what Adam and Eve are supposed to do. So this page is the only page you need if you want to discuss things with Unification Church members. The reason why this is important is because feedback is a fuel for success. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. We need feedback. Cara, with this video, has done all this work, and she's saying, look, I need some donation, some money to help keep it going. It's like if somebody had a big corporation like Monsanto's, that's not a good example, or Coca-Cola, and then a customer went out and made 80% of a movie to explain their whole experience with the product, good, bad, and ugly, and then came back and said, look, I'm just about to finish this incredible testimonial about your product, the good parts, the bad parts, essentially a huge research firm thing on it. Will you help out? Now, in the past, companies wouldn't do that. But now, times have changed, and companies want feedback. That's the essence of new rules of marketing and PR. Companies want feedback from customers. Companies are dying to get customers to do YouTube videos to give their feedback and to show what's going on with that group, so they can change but also spread the message. So this documentary is a golden opportunity to learn. Plus, there's another book. If you have questions, why should we pay money to a firm, an outside firm that's run by, second gen, somebody that was, came from the church? This book is called The Ultimate Question 2.0. It's talking about how the companies that do the best are the companies that get feedback from their customers. Get feedback from their customers. And why do you get feedback?
So you can improve your product.
Right. Do you just get up and give a speech and walk out of the room as quickly as possible so nobody can talk to you, nobody can give you feedback? If you're afraid of feedback, you have a problem. You're stuck. You don't want to change. Hello? The whole system of the Holy Spirit Association is open source. Everybody's blessed. Who's going to be the successful blessed couples in the future? Probably not Unification Church members. There are some, maybe 2%, 1%. but everyone else is all different levels. There's some super millionaires, probably some billionaires who went to the blessing. But you know why we don't hear about it? Because they're off doing their stuff. They don't have time to sit around and argue about everything. Okay, building blessed families. So, what is the core essence of the divine principle? What is the core essence of Unification Church? What is the core essence of the blessing of history? Is building blessed families. So, are you a good storyteller? This is like a main question. You know, what is Kara's business called? Storytellers for Good. You know, goodness, or storytellers for God, you could say. Storytellers for good. When you have something good happen in your life, what happens? You move and you grow. And what happens? You tell that story to somebody else and you help them, right? Ideally, if you're a father and you overcome whatever you're overcoming, then when your son gets to that same situation, you can tell him a story about how you overcame that situation. Why is that really, really successful churches like Saddleback Church have a parade of testimonies of people coming up week after week, giving their story, telling their stories for good, you know, giving their testimony, you know. I tried Tide, and you can try Tide too, and it'll change your wardrobe, you know. But they're talking about their experience with God. So storytellers for good is essentially people who have an experience with goodness. They change, and they go out and they're doing something to move people along in the story. Now, from a religious viewpoint, from a Christian viewpoint, you can look at this. What is God's providence? God is working people. How has God worked throughout history? He moved people from not belonging to a faith community to connecting to some kind of faith community. Maybe that's a church, maybe that's a mosque, maybe that's a synagogue. Moving them from that faith community into a small group, a family. And that small group studying their word, studying God's word, figuring out how to go from good to great. They then start serving in their local church and serving out in the world. Each one of these bridges is a story. Storytellers for good. Are you a good storyteller? Understand a theme going here? So, you know, usually I put in here, in those little circles, like unchurched, church, Sunday service, everything, to understand how to move, right? How God's providence moves. But these are empty. You know why they're empty? You have to fill out your own story. I can't do it for you. Church can't do it for you. You have to figure out how you're going to move in your life so you have a story to tell. Does anybody want to make a documentary about your life? Or are they going to start it and they're like, wait a second, you just get up, go to work, come home, go to sleep. When my daughter said that to me one time, she said, Pops, that's all you do. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. So anyway, script. If you want to make a movie, you need a script. This is your script. What kind of story are you going to tell? Are you a good storyteller? If the hand of God works and Cara gets $1 million to make 100 stories, you know what? I bet pretty soon she's going to figure out, you know what? I want to find exciting stories. Is there anybody in this room that she would want to make a movie about? Wow, that's James's life story. It's so amazing. He went through hell and he overcame and he kept going. And think about it. Are you a good storyteller or not? Think about it. So, I think we have to really read a lot of books. Another book plug. Think and Grow Rich. Who heard of this book? I've listened to this about 20 times. Man, this dude is like so positive thinking. But it's very, 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 very serious book about bringing results in your life, about overcoming negativity, about keep going. It's incredible. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, The Lean Startup. The Unification Church is the ultimate lean startup. Why is that? The guy talks about, hey, if you're going to start a company, fail a lot. Sounds familiar. Yeah. But just keep going and keep going and keep trying until you find something that works. Multipliers. What's kind of a lingo in the Unification Church? Multiply goodness, 3 blessings. Multipliers. This is an incredible book. If you're female, get this book. It's by Liz Wiseman. She's LDS Mormon lady, super smart. She worked with Mitt Romney, super smart, super positive book. She talks about, we've all had experience with two dramatically different kinds of leaders. The first type drains the intelligence, drains your energy, and the capability from the ones around them, and always needs to be the smartest one in the room. I've got all the answers, you should follow me. Sound familiar? These are the idea killers, the energy sappers, the diminishers of talent and commitment. On the other side of the spectrum are leaders who use their intelligence to amplify the smarts and capabilities of the people around them. When these leaders walk into a room, light bulbs go off over people's heads, ideas flow, and problems get solved. These are the leaders who inspire employees to stretch themselves to deliver results that surpass expectations. These are the multipliers, and the world needs more of them, especially now when leaders are expected to do more with less. Amazing book. Okay, so, people listening to this, they're not Unification Church members. It's very difficult to understand Unification Church and Reverend Moon. The best thing to do is to study Divine Principle directly, Father's words directly. That's the best way. When I joined the church, it was very confusing. True Father was in Danbury. He gave this book, God's Will in the World. I met the older members, and I was like, ugh, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? So I got the book. Dr. Sook gave me God's Will in the World, and I read the book, and I was like, wow, this guy, Reverend Moon, is on fire. People asked him, are you the Messiah? He's like, ask God yourself. Don't ask me. You get a direct revelation from God. So very quickly when I joined Unification Church, I stopped really worrying about leaders too much. They still got me upset, still had to restore things. But I realized Reverend Moon is a man who's chasing after God. The people that follow and get inspired by Reverend Moon are religious leaders who are chasing hard after God. Serious people that do fasting and prayer and incredible conditions. Those are the people, when they meet True Father, they're like, wow, this guy is moving. I thought I was moving, but he's like Concorde airplane. So you have to shift from criticizing leaders to chasing after God and living a life in pursuit of God, like A.W. Tozer. Pursuing God. Pursuing God. Does that make sense? So I'd say to people that aren't church members, study Father's words directly. Because if you just talk to one or two members, you're going to get a very limited experience of, who True Father is based upon their understanding. And for Unification Church members, seek professional help. Get professional training. There's people that God has blessed who really can educate you and go forward in your life. Find the people that have the professional training and get that professional training. So between the two, we can do great things. Make sense? So what was Father's direction for this kind of process? He said, you start out in home church, then tribe church, nation church, universe church. It's all up to you now. So True Father's team is just saying, hey, it's your responsibility to build a healthy family. Go ahead. Home church is the beginning. After you do that, you can do as much as you like. But home church is the bare minimum. So if you're not a Unification Church member and you're interviewing Unification Church members, you should ask them, how are you doing with home church? True Father said, you start out in home church. How's your family doing? How are your finances? Do you have a will? Do you have $1 million in the bank? How are you doing? Home church is the beginning. How is your family doing? So this is the basics, right? We got this handout talking about, are you a good storyteller? It's talking about the process to go through. So what is really a difficult part for people to go to the blessing? I mean, I got blessed. My wife's from Japan. Picture blessing, matching. Father put the pictures together. We met, went to the blessing. Similar to Kara's situation. It's very difficult. How do you find a common base? I mean, the reality was, my wife had been a church member for about the same amount of time I had been a church member. And I looked at her and I'm like, what church are you in? I mean, the way she did stuff was like over here. the way I did stuff was over here. And it was just like, are you kidding me? You know, I remember, and the reality is you have to go deeper. So the whole concept of mass wedding and this blessing is you have to go deeper about your chasing after God. You can't just think surface level. You can't just think, oh, I'm going to the blessing because I'm a church member and my parents told me to, or whatever. You have to go much, much deeper to what are the root principles of the word blessing. If you study divine principle, if you read the Bible, there's like underlying promises of God working, saying, look, if you do like this, it will go well with you. It sounds Jewish, right, Catherine?
Not necessarily.
No? Okay, well, I have to get my Hasidic Jew accent on. I'm not working on that. But anyway, there's promises and curses in the Old Testament. If you follow God, then good things can happen. If you don't, bad things happen. So God promises to bless you if you follow His instructions. Every promise has a premise, and there's a condition attached. You'll experience all these blessings if you obey the Lord your God. You'll be blessed in your towns and in the country. You'll be blessed with many children and productive fields. You'll be blessed with fertile herds and flocks. You'll be blessed with baskets overflowing with fruit and kneading bowls filled with bread. You'll be blessed wherever you go, both in coming and going. The Lord will conquer your enemies when they attack you. And the Lord will bless everything you do and will fill your storehouse with grain. So this is pretty clear. All throughout the Old Testament, God is saying, if you do something, then I can work in your life. Kids, if you do the chores, you get to go to camp. If you do the chores, if you do something, how about men, right? If you treat your wife well, things happen. If you don't treat your wife well, things don't happen. I mean, you have to do something, right? God promises to bless my life if I meet with Him daily. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my doors, waiting at my doorway. If you spend time to pray, to meditate, to be grateful, then God can work in your life. God promises to bless my life if I study and do His word. Blessed is the man who delights in the law of the Lord. This word blessed came before the Unification Church. This whole theory of God giving the 10 Commandments and then asking people to follow His direction has been going on for a long time. So True Father is basically saying with his big blessing ceremony, you guys have to think about it on a much bigger scale. God isn't talking just to one group. God is talking to all mankind. You as all mankind will be blessed if you do these things. God promises to bless my life if I tithe my income. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. There may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I'll not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing you will not have room enough for me. So God is blessing you if you're using your finances to serve others, to help others. God promises to bless my life if I share the good news. Are you a good storyteller? Do you have a good story to tell people? Do you have good news? Witnessing witnessing is just telling your experience. Oh, this was my experience. I met Jesus on the road to Damascus, and He knocked me off my horse, and this is what happened. I went to the Divine Principle Workshop, and this is what happened. I started studying the Torah, and this is what happened. Make sense? It's just giving your experience of God working in your life. But the reality is, if you don't have any experience in your life, you got nothing to say. People ask you, well, how you doing? So are you a good storyteller? So this is your handout for today. Sakara Jones is asking us, are you a good storyteller? Is there anything worth documenting in your life? Is it worth spending 10 grand to document one family's life, to explain how they went through the blessing and how they shifted from just thinking about, oh, I need to be a Unification Church member, or oh, I need to be a Muslim, or oh, I need to be a Jew, to what True Father was really saying. True Father was saying, you have to chase hard after God. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew. Are you living a life that God can bless? Period. Are you, as the Divine Principle says, are you multiplying good children? That's it. Are you multiplying good children? Any questions? That's it. So I hope we get $1 million from headquarters for Kara's Kickstarter campaign. Maybe 100,000. 10,000 for 100 families, we'll see.
I have a question.
Yes,
Kara's campaign, her video, her documentary
Yeah.
that she made or she's making, what is like maybe the mission statement or the goal?
the goal,
At this time?
on her Kickstarter campaign, it talks about
I know she wants to
two
raise
central questions. How do we figure out who we are despite the gravitational pull the beliefs we're born in? She's talking about her experience going to the blessing. When a family is built on faith, can you leave one without losing the other? Her experience, her whole life experience. And check out the Kickstarter campaign online. You can look up Second Coming, the documentary, on Kickstarter, and take it from there. Any other questions? God bless you. Have a good week.